3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to RPGs We Love, the latest marathon from the RPG Valkyries. We're raising money so some of the Valkyries can make it to RPG Limit Break in May, and we have plenty of fun in store for you tonight, or today if it's, already daytime where you are. I'm your host for this segment, Margaret Ann, and you're about to watch Shentok speedrun Magic Knight Rayearth. But before we get to that, our donation incentive for this run has been met, so Shentok will be fighting the bonus boss and showing us those awesome cutscenes. However, feel free to donate towards our next incentive for the run after this, which is to have our Final Fantasy I randomizer racers, Demarin and Silverfire, defeat Warmech. That donation is currently at $60 out of 100, so if you want to see that fight, be sure to donate. We have plenty of other fun incentives to donate towards as well, and all of them can be found on the donations link, which will be posted in chat momentarily. So, without further ado, here's Shentok and Magic Knight Rayearth.
Howdy. I'm just going to get right into it since the donation incentive was meant for the cutscene, so we'll go right now.
This land, this place, the dark tide must be quelled.
So this is Magic Knight Rayearth for the Sega Saturn, the very last game released in the US for the console by Working Designs. They spent like 3 years working on it because some of the source code had been lost, which was surprisingly typical of the 90s, especially like Squaresoft is notorious for it, and Sega has had that happen on numerous occasions. This was an in-house developed game by Sega to coincide with the anime and manga series. I haven't seen the anime myself, but from what I understand, it just goes up to the end of the first season. So we're first going to start this game by doing a out of bounds clip. We have to hope this NPC decides to cooperate with us. Basically, what we want to do is have this NPC push us into the corner, and so far the NPC is not cooperating. Normally, we do like minor manipulation based on turning on the console and going into a new game as fast as possible, and generally the NPC will be on a cycle that gets you into the wall pretty quickly. But unfortunately, in a marathon setting, the NPC can be quite the rascal. There we go. So now we push out of bounds. Oh, there we go. Gonna adjust my settings here, turn up the message speed, change my button type. All that does is just make a trick later on that we're going to be using heavily much more easier to use. What is going on here? Where? I don't think I've ever had this happen before. I know it sounds kind of silly to say, but usually, what's supposed to happen is we start taking damage off screen for some reason, and instead of going through the first 35 minutes of the game, hang on, I'm just going to do a hard reset and go back into this. So basically, this skips the first 35 minutes of the game, which is mostly just cutscenes and exposition. We're just going to go right back into it and try again. Alright, there we go. So we've already seen this cutscene, just going to skip it, go back into it. Hopefully that kind of weird thing, honestly, that's the first time that's happened to me. But it's good to know that that's a thing. Luckily it's right in the beginning, just go back into it. Okay, this time the NPC is much more kind. Gonna change my settings again. And that's like the manipulation that we do. So we just go up, and then we hold upright, and then, as you see, our health is just draining, and normally we only have access to Hikaru, the red-haired character, but because we died, it cycles through the other two characters as if they're in the party, even though they don't join until after Tokyo Tower. So there we go, much better. That's exactly how it should be going. So if one been told, that NPC movement's considered the second best you can get, and it's definitely the most consistent for me personally. So normally, we have to go through a bunch of areas where we get some exposition on going to Sephiroth, meeting Clef, who's this like ancient dude who works for the princess that's been kidnapped, and we have been summoned as the Magic Knights to go resurrect some ancient machines and free the princess. But we're just skipping all that exposition and going straight into the game. So now we're going to talk to Lucino, who is like dubbed by his town the most powerful wizard in Sephiroth, even though he's nothing special. He erected a monster barrier to protect the town from monster occurrences that have been happening lately, and the barrier is starting to fail. And so we as the Magic Knights come in and clean up the situation. But it turns out that the evil Lord Zagot is actually like the cause of what's going on. He has his minions throughout the various points of the game. We're going to be introduced to the first one, whose name is Ascot, if I recall. Yeah. Names are kind of hard to remember since a lot of the part of the run where they get introduced has been routed out of the game, and we'll be seeing that as we go on through it. But he's like your first guy. He's just like a kid. He has like a thing for using animal or like monsters to do his bidding, I guess. So now we're going into the tutorial dungeon called the Tempting Cave. Basically, it's just mostly block pushing puzzles. Very simple. Lucino, being the prideful guy he is just going out of his way to hinder our progression in the dungeon. He's doing everything he can, like putting blocks in the way and these air currents. If we go through the wrong hole, it just teleports us to another room in the dungeon that can take us that usually takes us back to the start, I recall. So we just gotta putting blocks around. Like I said, just very much a tutorial dungeon. You see me jump into every transition screen. It just boosts your movement a little bit. Instead of like stopping when you go in a new room, you keep your momentum, and it becomes a lot more helpful later when we start getting areas where we can keep our momentum and get into running speed. Is basically the longer you walk in a straight direction, eventually it turns into running speed, and we want to keep that. The only downside of running speed is that your movement becomes really slippery, but you get used to that. So I ideally just want to keep it as much as I can. There we go. So normally you can just like weave in between those dudes. It doesn't really matter. We're not too worried about health. If you're able to get running speed in this room, you can jump past this wall barrier that he's going to drop, but that's almost task only, because if you do like 4 frame perfect inputs in like tapping the D-pad, you can get running speed instantly. But amusingly, in the Japanese version, you can actually have instant dash by this point in the game. Like normally you learn different abilities as the game progresses, but in the Japanese version there was a piece of debug code left in that lets you activate all the abilities at the start. And it definitely changes up the run a little bit. So I'm just jumping here just to get more distance to where I want to be, since the cutscene stops you in place. And so there's a healing fountain, but it's been sucked dry by him, because he's just doing everything he can to stop us. So they expect you to wait on that platform, but the distance is just enough. We're gonna learn, oops, just pressing A a little too much. Learn Fu's second spell, which is her only damaging spell. She's like the healer of the group. And this is probably the only time, or actually no, there's one more time we're going to use it, but we're going to use it to kind of solve a puzzle. Basically, Lucino is creating a windstorm, preventing us from progressing, and we use Fu to blow him away so that he can't do that anymore.
And if we have a moment, we actually have a donation that came in.
Oh, go for it.
From Eric Clouder, donated $25, saying, donating towards everyone's favorite robot showing up in Final Fantasy Randomizer. Thank you very much.
Alright, so now Lucino's finally at the end of the dungeon. He says he's going to deal with the monster himself, but he's too scared. And now it's up to us to handle it. So now we're going to be introduced to the magic swap glitch, where basically if we swap characters on the same frame we use the magic, it'll do a mana check on the character you're swapping from and use the mana of the and the spell of the character you're swapping to. And so it just allows us to infinitely cast spells as long as we don't mess up. And I'm doing it as Umi as a precaution in case it messes up, but I'm pretty consistent at it. So I just basically remap my buttons so I can just have my thumb press Z and C at the same time to swap characters and cast the spell. And it's very, very helpful. Because since we skip our first level up in the game, like all level ups in this game are scripted, and we skip our first one, which gives our charged attack. Since we don't have that, we basically do almost no damage, and without the magic swap glitch, this fight becomes very tedious and lengthy. Alright, nice and easy. So now Lucino comes in humble at our skills and bravery. And the whole town's here to greet us on our accomplishments. But because we're such nice people, we give all the credit to Lucino, even though he didn't do anything and he actually actively hindered us. But we rationalize that as it's his choice to accept the lie. And we get our first level up in the game. Basically, each time you level up, your attack power goes up. You get an extra point of health and magic. And since this is our first level up, Hikaru gets a, what's the word I'm looking for? Her charge attack, which we don't really use physical attacks in this game, except for, like, puzzle solving. Because magic's just so powerful in this game, and it's, like, properly balanced because you have a limited magic pool, but with the magic swap glitch, it makes everything else very trivial. So now we're going to the next town, Taflon, which is being plagued by whirlpools. So basically, no one can go fishing and get a source of food. And our problem is that we don't know how to swim. The girls have yet to learn how. And we're gonna go talk to this dude over here in the house who tells us about someone that can help us. And then we also have to talk to a girl named Sarah who plays an important role in this upcoming dungeon, sort of. Basically, Caltus is ashamed of letting this girl's pet die. And there we go. And he has exiled himself back to Polizu village, the place we were at before. And he's very depressed. And basically we're going to go in and try to talk him into teaching us how to swim so that we can continue our journey. But, at first he says no, but he's going to say yes because the story demands it, or rather our progression demands it. But the way we ask him for help is kind of mean and demanding. Because basically, Umi, the blue-haired girl, just kind of tells him off for wallowing in his sadness. And I guess it was the pep talk he needed, though. Oh, there we go. Oh, the NPC was in the way. So occasionally the NPC will be right in front of you as you exit out, and if you're mashing too fast, it'll talk to the NPC before it continues the cutscene. And it's kind of amusing because it's actually a bug in the Japanese version. where overmashing can cause the cutscene to repeat itself. And in the Japanese version, that's really detrimental because every single line in the game is voice acted, and you can't skip lines with voice acting in them. And as you've seen, there has been like no voice acting. The whole intro is voice acted, but since we skipped that, we miss a lot of the good working designs voice acting that people love a lot. So here's Caltus. He's come to see Sarah, finds out that she's doing better with her new pet Jiminy, who's a cute little pink dragon thing. But she's kind of keeping to herself because everyone else thinks that she should get rid of this new pet just because of its appearance. But Caltus sees us eavesdropping, and he's gonna just go drag us off. And then, of course, we have Ascot making another appearance. Just says some throwaway line about Caltus being useful. And the best way to teach someone how to swim, of course, is just throw them right into the water. And he's going to teach us the secret skill, Rapid Roaring Wave Cut, our first of 3 abilities in the game. But we only learned 2 due to how the run is routed out. And Fu, not being able to grasp how to swim, she just takes a nice little floaty. And we get our voice-acted tutorials.
Hikaru and the others have mastered the skill known as Roaring Rapid Wave.
So you notice as number 2, number 1 is basically just teaching you how to save the game.
Now they can journey
and
to
yeah,
the
we get
ice
cute
cave
little
on the island
chibis,
to the
the
north.
versions of the characters. The girl on the left is Precia. She basically helps us on our journey by making us Escudo weapons, which are like weapons that grow in strength with you. Alright, so now we can swim. The only thing that's kind of lame about swimming, is that you have to mash A to swim. Luckily, you don't have to mash too fast to keep your speed. But it's definitely not the greatest mechanic. So normally you're supposed to go like all the way around in these whirlpools to navigate your way through, but luckily we can just go up and then up right, and it just takes us right where we need to go. So you kind of just like force our way in. And these whirlpools are basically what preventing people from living out their lives. But what's interesting is that these whirlpools aren't exactly caused by any monster. It's actually caused by one of the ancient machines that we've been looking for. We were given a hint early on where to find them. Basically the sea, the sky, and the volcano. So here we're going to have a dungeon where we're making heavy use of Hikaru's magic to melt these ice blocks, but there's only 3 places we do that. 2 with the level 1 spell, and then 1 with a level 2 spell later on. You can melt these ice blocks, but it doesn't, do anything to your benefit because you need them to solve the puzzle. And luckily, you can just exit the room and start over again if that happens. There we go. Okay, so far so good. Sometimes these club guys will just chase you down. Luckily, they're being pretty kind. Because like they normally don't move very fast, but they can just suddenly gain a ton of speed and start running after you. There we go. So each of the mirrors, they teach you a new skill. And there's 3 skills for each character, but we don't learn 1 for your Umi and 1 for Fu. It's just we skipped them in the run. Let's change that. So now I'm going to change the Fu because since Hikaru has no magic, I have to use a magic swap glitch to solve this puzzle here. There we go. So sometimes it messes up, it'll drain the mana the character you're swapping from. That's just how it is. And you need to use her level 2 magic to clear the tougher ice, I guess. So basically just stick with Fu from now. Because we have to hit a switch to remove an obstacle. Oop, there we go. There we go. And then normally, actually I still can. Yeah, I was gonna say I need two of Foo's magics to clear this room quickly, but I can just magic swap. There we go. Then I have to do these 3 as well. Awesome. And you just have to clear that room in order to remove the giant spiky ice block. So another sliding block puzzle, real simple. I mean, casually it could probably take you a couple tries, but once you figure it out, it's pretty easy. Okay, switch to Karu. And heal up, and now we're going to be in a cutscene where we see our first machine. They all start out as like giant creatures, and Umi's is like a giant water dragon or a sea serpent of some sort. And the first giant robot's name is Saris. I think that's how they write it, is Saris. But then there's the other 2, Wyndham for Fu and Rayearth, the name, you know, for the namesake for Ikaru. And they're each like relative to their elements. So Saris is water, Wyndham is wind, of course, and Rayearth is fire. Yes, and we finally get introduced to cute little Makona. Normally, there's like a whole thing with Makona at the beginning of the game, but again, just like the whole part of the intro, we get skipped over. So now Ascot makes himself known to the girls for the first time, and has decided to use Jiminy as the target of his transformation magic, I guess, and turns Jiminy into this giant dragon-like beast. And because of this, now he's like super aggressive and obeys Ascot. We have to take him down. We get no say in this. And so this fight's like super duper easy, even without the magic glitch. Basically, all you do is just lure him to the right side of the screen, and he can't hit you ever. So now Jiminy's a giant monster, and we have to take him down. Let's see, waiting for him to move. So for this one, we can just keep doing it. There we go. Basically, some like monster type bosses tend to have no invulnerability frames, or rather, they do have invulnerability frames, but they wear out while your spell's casting. Whereas like human type enemies, you have to wait for the spell you have to wait for the invulnerability frames to disappear before you can start casting again. And there are exceptions to the rule, of course. There we go. So now we just gotta wait for the animation to finish. And you can keep going on forever with this fight if you keep doing the magic glitch, because you have to wait it has to wait a moment before it processes he's dead. So you have to pay attention to like when he's red. Oh, there's gonna be a jerk bird later. This one's a dragon. So Ascot's pretty pissed off. Sarah's pretty upset.
I'm so sorry. We really did try our best to save your...
And like all the cutscenes in this game are taken from the anime, of course, but they have a pretty bad compression for being on the Saturn. As basically the Saturn didn't have a built-in decoder for video, so a lot of companies just over-compress things. And so now, basically, in order to get the ancient machines, we have to prove our strength to them, and defeating Jiminy proved our strength to Saris. And of course, there are also Gundams in addition to being giant monsters. But they're not ready for use yet. They have to grow with us, in a sense. And now we finally get an introduction to the main villains that technically were supposed to be introduced earlier. Basically, Alcyone is like the first villain we meet, but she loses to us early on in a cutscene, and she's now encased in crystal.
My, Ascot. Pity that you've returned a failure.
Innova, wait!
And now we also get introduced to Ascot's sister, Caldina, who becomes our next
I think I'll
villain.
have a shot at doing away with those 3 brats, and then, after I return victorious, we can talk about Ascot.
It would please me if you were to end this circus. You're free to try.
You won't be disappointed.
And see, there's Alcyone encased in crystal. And now what I don't understand is why Zagot feels the need to kill the people who work under him just for a single failure. It seems like it doesn't really inspire loyalty. But I suppose Zagot never actually, kills anyone that works for him. We end up doing the work, or Innova does. But now all the whirlpools are gone. We can go to the next town, which is the ice village of Rosen. Basically, they used to be, a regular weather place, and then a volcano erupted, and that's basically why we're heading there, is because of the volcano. And because the volcano erupted, the place is now a frozen wasteland of sorts. So now I'm going to switch to Fu, just because the next cutscene coming up puts her a little closer to where we want to be. It doesn't really... It saves maybe a second to do it, but it's free time save. But now we're going to be introduced to Fario, who technically we were introduced before, in at least as far as gameplay goes. Basically, he's a wandering swordsman. And Fu has a thing for him, and he has a thing for her. And it kind of shows there with, that love tap. But basically, Fu thinks he's charming all these ladies because he's really interested in, just a bunch of women. But in actuality, if you saw earlier, Caldina was doing a dance, and she was basically hypnotizing people. And he was counteracting that with his own music to just get people not to pay attention to her dance magic. And here we can see the hypnotizing effects in action. Basically, since this is a volcano, and prophecy said one of the machines is in a volcano, that it must be here. And the innkeeper is so kind enough to wake us up in the middle, or to scare us in the middle of the night and ask us for help. So now we're going to go into the next dungeon. I believe it's called the Bewildering Cave. Names aren't explicitly mentioned, but they are shown in, your save file titles. And this dungeon is unique. There's only one other like it, where there's no clear direction in where to go. It's basically just, one giant room. And everything is on this map. There's another dungeon close to this, but it's also, set up into, 3 floors. whereas this one is just a single room. And what we want to do is we want to get Umi's level 2 magic to basically, and we're going to use that to open the path to the boss room. And it's basically, there's just like 4 flames that you have to put out at the same exact time, and only her level 2 magic can do that. And luckily, there's like a direct path to it. Alright, over here. And conveniently, another mirror is placed in here. And Umi's level 2 magic is going to be our main source of damage from now until near the end of the game. Basically, it's the same damage as Hikaru's level 2 magic, but it has a shorter animation frame. Or shorter animation frames, and it also causes less lag on the screen. Yeah, so one thing neat about this game is that your other 2 characters don't matter when you're not active with them. So they can be wherever they want, and when you swap, it'll just swap to where you are. Ooh, haven't had that happen. Okay, do that, and then I'm grabbing this mon upgrade. This mon upgrade isn't needed, but it makes a fight later on more consistent. And it also just refunds our mana too. There we go. And that's just the puzzle right there. Gonna heal up. And go into the boss room. So now this boss is unique in that you can only use ranged attacks to damage Caldina. This is basically, we're on the left side of the screen and Caldina's on the right. Caldina does have a move where she can get close to you, but it's more like an illusion effect where there's like 6 of her around you and only one of them is the real Caldina, and hitting the wrong one damages you. But we're just going to do the magic glitch to take her down. And since she's a human, we have to wait for invulnerability frames to deal damage. There we go. And since the donation incentive was met, there's a second fight later on where we'll be fighting her again. Basically, it's normally skipping the run because it's not needed, but there's some really good cutscenes with it that are associated with their second appearance that it's just absolutely must to fight her again because the cutscenes are just so good. But so now we talked to Fario. Finally, people are communicating. Figure out that he was just schmoozing the women to keep them away from Caldina, and he actually wasn't having any ill intent with them. As silly as that is. So now we get another scene of the villain. Basically, outside of the intro of the game, interactions with the villains in Zagat's Palace are the only time there's voice acting. And there's only basically like one line said here.
It seems my little pet Alcyone has vanished.
Yeah, all that loading screens, all that boss or lair intro screen that appears so often just for one line. So, we want to go to the next town, but we can't because of the eruption, there's a rock blocking the tunnel that leads to the next village. So now we're going to talk to the innkeeper on a hint on what to do, and she tells us to go talk to Rafarga, who lives on the far side of town. There we go. And it turns out he doesn't have a door. Oh, crap. I'm so sorry I skipped that cutscene. There was a cutscene there that introduced Rafarga. He just shows his face and says, "Hi, I'm Rafarga, and who are you three?" I'm so sorry about that. It's just out of habit to skip it. So he's going to teach us how to break down brittle walls, but we're, not having an easy time at it. Yeah, because of the snow, it just causes somehow his doorway to turn into a sheet of ice. Just the magic properties of Sephiroth. So we're having trouble Hikaru's having trouble sleeping, and we're gonna go out for a night stroll. And we're gonna find Rafarga out here too, who's reminiscing about his past. It turns out he used to be a very important person. He was the head of the royal guard for Princess Emerald, and he sent himself into exile because he failed to protect the princess, and he felt so weak and useless because there was nothing he could do against Zagoth's magic. But seeing us has rekindled his passion for helping people. And we hear Umi scream, and it turns out there was a bug in the bed. And it was enough to give us the strength to break through the ice wall.
And Precious.
And we learn our second skill.
Mysterious Sephiroth Lecture number 3.
You've just mastered the skill known as the Pulverizing Bash.
Indeed. By running to increase your speed, the power to throw yourselves increases as well. You can destroy places with weak foundations or small cracks with incredible ease.
But be sure to give yourself plenty of room to run so you can increase your speed.
That's right. Make a good approach, start running, and then boom!
That's all for today, kids. We'll let you get back to your game now. Have fun!
Remember, boom!
My favorite part about that cutscene is Clef's voice actor punches his fist when he goes boom, and it just really sells it. So now Rafarga wishes us goodbye as we can go on to the Volcanic Pass. I can't remember the name of it, but Volcanic Pass is close enough. And we're just going to pass on through that. It's a pretty straightforward dungeon. It's mostly just going from from room to room. There's no boss or anything. It's just basically a connecting path. So just jump into each room, keep our running speed. The more we run, the faster we go. And the whole point is to go fast. There we go. And actually, jumping into a loading screen is going to be important for a glitch later on. So we're just going to damage boost through that. It's just the fastest way I found, and it works quite nicely. Let's see, this room can be a little dangerous just because of that placement of that dude right there. But it's okay if people die. They're not really required. Just got to be careful. Oop. The jump didn't go off there. And I can use magic to destroy these blocks. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's really strange that sometimes it just fails to count as a hit. Okay, I can take one more hit. I should be fine though. Yep. I'm gonna heal just to be safe. The next couple of rooms can be kind of dangerous for damage. So normally I'd use Umi to break these blocks, but sadly she didn't make it. So there's just a lot of fire here. Although I suppose that's to be expected of a volcanic pass. Alright, switch back to Hikaru here. Hey, don't worry, Umi will be right back. Alright, now we're through there. But we're now in a village that's been caught on fire. The village is called Ei. Like, IA makes more sense, but the Japanese have it written as Ei. So we heal there in the fountain. So we need to go. Basically, we want to go that way, but there's debris that's in the way. So we have to go in this mansion and rescue a kid who is trapped inside. But in order to get to the kid, we have to find the 3 keys to access the room where the kid is stashed away. Oop, jumped a little too soon there. So miraculously, while most of the doors are burned off, there's 3 I think there's 3 types of colored doors that are miraculously in perfect condition. So we get the blue key first. Ooh, 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 yeah! The fire rats are being kind. Sometimes they'll get in your way like that, and you don't get to keep the running speed. And they're just more of a nuisance than anything. Go around here. Now we get the red key. And then, yep, I figured as much. Okay, awesome. Got running speed back. So now we got the red key. Now we need to get the green key, and then we'll be able to access the final room. So we get the power of RGB to save the little kid. There we go. Sometimes that door doesn't open up right away, and I don't know why. So now we have all 3 keys. I'm just going to switch to Umi for health reasons. The Northern Lights. Why not both? So now we can finally go here. This door breaks down after we open it. Doesn't make sense why, but still pretty cool effect. Jumped a little too late. There we go. Take you down. Luckily, the fire rats can't follow us past that corridor there, as you can see. So now that we have all 3 keys, we can finally get to the kid in trouble. But turns out that Alcyone is behind it, and she's a pretty bad chick. She escaped from her crystal prison, and now she's going to summon some fire skulls for us to deal with. They start as 3 little ones, and they turn into 1 big one. It's a pretty easy fight in the speed run, but casually, it's a very, very difficult fight. These guys do a lot of damage, and it takes a numerous amount of hits. Umi, this is like the only time in the game where the element of your magic makes a difference, whereas Hikaru's fire magic does no damage, and Umi's water magic does like way more damage than normal. So we can just kill him in as little as 4 hits, whereas like casually you'll be running all over the place trying to avoid his fire attacks. Sometimes he'll spew out those little flames that can be pretty annoying. And look at that, the fire turns blue. So we were able to rescue the kid. And what's funny is I've actually died in this cutscene before, because there was a fire on top of where you spawn after the end of the fight, and I was down to my last character, and she was 1 hit from death, and you can actually die from that, which is hilarious. But the nice thing is it still counts the victory. You just have to go all the way there and see the cutscene again.
Seems as if
so at least the game does have set proper flags for boss defeats.
She not only departed without your permission, but lost to those 3 in your name. It is nothing short of a complete disgrace, my lord. I take full responsibility for her escape and her actions. I am prepared to die, Master.
Charming, but unnecessary for now, Inova. Just continue to monitor her activities.
As you wish, my lord.
So Nova's like, he used to be a beast that was a guardian of the princess's castle, but Zagot gave him human form, and he is just completely and devotedly loyal to Zagot. It's like sometimes it seems a bit over excessive, but that's just mainly due to the nature that he used to be like a canine type of animal, and that just kind of spills through to his human form. So he's just fiercely loyal. So now we're going to Lyrie. Normally there's a bunch of stuff we do here. We learn the instant dash technique that lets you run with the press of a button, and we do a fairly lengthy dungeon, but we're just gonna skip that. We're gonna be doing something called a map glitch. So if you were to do the any % run, you do a map glitch in Polizu Village just to go straight to the final dungeon, and that's why this is called no Polizu skip, because we want to do a lot more in the game. So now we're going to do a trick that has like I believe like a 5 or 6 frame window. It's pretty small. Normally we can't continue from Lakatak Falls. There's a giant plot boulder in the way, and we're supposed to meet Ascot disguised as a kid named Alto, who helps us out in the Tree of Life to get to the top, and we fight Alcyone there, and it's a very tough fight where she has like 2 assistants with her. But we're just going to skip all that. So if we press, let's see, it's going to probably take me a few tries, but if we press the map button on a correct frame, there we go. We get turned into the map sprites, and we just press upright slightly, and we just skip right over that boulder. And because the donation incentive was met, we are going to do a fight here that we normally skip, where we're going to fight Caldina after doing... I'm just so glad about this skip because we skip a really annoying dungeon. So we just enter right to the fight. We don't have to do any of the dungeon. We just walk right into place. And Alto reveals that he's Ascot and learns the ways of the good, and he doesn't want to be evil anymore. And Caldina just thinks we brainwashed him somehow. And Alcyone comes in to ruin the plan. And Ascot, being the guy who turned over a new leaf, sacrifices himself for us. And Caldina takes out on us. So this fight is in like several bite-sized phases. Basically, just the arena changes after she takes so much damage. And it's definitely a lot easier than the other fight. See, so I'm just waiting for that to appear, just so that it's not chasing me around while I'm waiting for invulnerability frames. Yeah, become Chibi, avoid rocks. I love the map glitch so much. Like, it's not very many places you can use it, but it's fun. So after like every couple of hits, she changes the arena. It's supposed to become more difficult, but this is probably like one of the easier ones. I guess the difficulty is that the water is rushing downwards. Oop, I did not mean to do that. It's okay if Hikaru dies. There we go. Nope. Come on, there we go. Sometimes the magic glitch can be a little finicky because you have to press both buttons on the same frame, and if you don't, then it'll either just switch characters or it'll waste magic. There we go. And it should be one more hit, I think. It's, you know, an easy fight. And we get an extra level up out of it that we don't
Caldina,
normally
you
get.
can join us if you want.
Damn it, how is this possible?
Caldina, listen. We could become really great friends. I know there's good in you.
Oh my god! No! Did you see who did that? It was him! Identify yourself!
I am the right hand of Sage Master Zagot, Enova.
Murderer! Why did you have to kill her?
Her time had run out. She had become a liability. Simple as that.
You bastard.
You'll pay!
How very delightful. I have witnessed the power of the Magic Knights.
He's alive?
Yes, and that's quite unfortunate for you.
Ascot. Caldina.
So the girls are understandably upset. All these friends that they're making are dying or feeling pain at the actions of Zagot, and the Magic Knight's involvement in general is definitely not helping. So it turns out that Alcyone had actually partnered with Caldina for this whole event to happen, but Alcyone, of course, was planning to betray Caldina from the start. And so we get another cutscene with Zagot.
Bravo, Enova. Now let's see what you're capable of, shall we?
And now he has an ace up his sleeve as well.
Yes, my lord. Consider it done.
And now that that's out of the way, we can go to our next village. And then, funny enough, the plot rock is still there, despite having continued on. And from the right side, you can pass through it, and then it locks you out on the left. Oh. Right. I forgot the map glitch kind of messed with things there. So, even though we did the fight and we were out of the map glitch, technically we have to go back to Lack Attack to connect the dots on the world map. Otherwise, when we have to go through this way later for a quest, a fetch quest of sorts, we won't be able to take this path to get back to Lyrie.
Do we have a moment to mention what this game's about and why we're doing this marathon?
Sure, go for it.
So, welcome to all of those of you who have joined us to RPGs We Love 2, presented by the RPG Valkyries. We are raising money so that RPG Valkyries can make it to RPG Limit Break in May. And any money you donate towards those incentives will not only get to see more content, but you'll also be able to help everybody out. So if you are to subscribe or give bits or anything like that, that's still going to take this, which is the charity which the RPG Valkyries are affiliated with. But any money donated towards those incentives goes straight towards helping our Valkyries. So right now, our upcoming incentive, because all the Magic Knight Rayearth incentives are filled, will go, or the next incentive that's coming up is in our next run, which is Final Fantasy I Randomizer, which is only, let's see, bit off, only about $15 off from making it to have our runners defeat Hormac. So if you feel free to donate towards that or any of the other lovely incentives we have. So thanks, and sit back and enjoy the show.
Alrighty, so right there we were talking to a little boy named Nero, and if you notice the cutscene going fairly lengthy, it's because when we do the skip of all that stuff, it acts like that there's voice acting there, even though there is none in the English version. Now, in the Japanese version, there's voice acting. Basically 99% of the story cutscenes are voice acted. But basically, he's pretty upset. He wants revenge against this lake monster who's been causing tremors in town and caused a bookshelf that fell and break his mom's arm. And so he wants revenge for something completely out of the monster's control. So we wake up in the middle of the night. Nero's going out to fight the lake monster. And we have to go stop him. The NPC boss, the worst boss of all. So conveniently, there's a little island here that just shows up. And it's divided, and this basically leads us into two dungeons, or a dungeon that's basically split into two parts, an east and west side. And what we need are medallions from each side. I believe they're called like the Twilight Medallion and the Sunrise Medallion. And we need those to deal with the next boss. So we're going to try to take damage here, but not too much damage, because we want a death warp at the end of each section to go back to the start. Because dying is completely safe in this game. The only thing you lose is time. That wasn't as high as I thought it would be. Ooh, this is already a rough start. Alright, that's fine. I'm gonna wait for that to go off. Come on. There you go. Gonna heal. I'm gonna switch to wind magic. Okay. Things are getting a little bit scary. There we go. So I need to use her wind magic to clear the leaves there. And for whatever reason, it opens up a path. Oh, I did not want to do that. Okay, so things are actually getting a little scary now, but we'll manage, I hope. I know there's a chest somewhere around here with a potion in it. Let's see. Hopefully I can grab it and heal myself up somehow. There you are. Excellent. So now, damage is okay again. So yeah, it was just like a little bit of rough patch at the start. And generally this is the easy side, funnily enough. But it's become quite difficult out of nowhere. So now I go down here, and there's going to be a soft rock where the medallion is, and we have to just build up a running dash to break it. Normally you have instant dash by this point, but since we skipped it, we just have to build up speed to get it. Okay, now we just go over here, wait for the butterflies to do their job. So the thing to note about this game is that working designs, they're notorious for making games more difficult when they localize them. And this game is definitely no exception. It is a lot more difficult compared to the Japanese version, but for the most part, it's in a good way. Because the Japanese version is easy in kind of a boring way. Everything doesn't hurt very much. They move fairly slow. And in the US release, they bumped up damage, they bumped up movement speed of a lot of enemies. And it makes it more challenging and in a surprisingly fair way. Usually when working designs makes things more difficult, it's kind of unfairly challenging. But they did a pretty good job about balance in this game. Aside from the end, in the like the last two fights are insanely difficult in the US version, but in the Japanese version they're too easy, so it's like kind of hard to find that balance. But now we're over in the west side, which is the difficult side of the dungeon. There's a lot of those chimera things. Let's see, just gonna try and avoid everything. Okay, awesome, he'd move down. Sometimes he'll throw his boomerang at me, and then I lose my running speed. Ah, no. Okay, good. Sometimes they go in for a second hit. Ah. So the water actually pulls you down, so you have to watch out for that. So I just clear that room to make it easier to get through, since we have to wait on this thing. So now we have these pink trees that, when they set fire, they shoot lightning bolt. There's also this damage tree here. Basically, it summons ticks whenever you hit it. And they expect you to destroy it. It has a lot of health, but you can just like damage boost your way through it. Let's see. I'm gonna do that. That's fine. Switch to her. That's fine. I'm gonna do that. And I'm only killing them to make it easier for this section right here, because now we're finally at the point where we need running speed, and they just follow you to the ends of the earth. But now we want them around, just to get us back to the start. And now we finally have both medallions, and we can take care of the boss, who is actually the island itself. I'm gonna switch to Umi, because she's gonna be our main damage dealer for a while now. The next 3 boss fights, yeah, she's gonna be our main damage dealer. So now we have medallions, we just place them in here. Luckily it's just pretty automatic. And now the island is rumbling. And it turns out it was just a bunch of debris, and the island itself was the beast causing all the problems. And we also finally find Nero, who is the who happened to have found the monster before us. And so, since this guy is like a true monster, we can just spam our magic without having to worry about invulnerability frames. I believe he takes like 8 or 10 casts to kill. I don't recall the exact number. Before the Lactac Fall skip was found, we'd actually use charged attacks against this boss, and it'd be like the only boss where charged attacks is our best form of damage, because it does this, like, when you're doing the fight when you're doing the fight with normal game progression, your charge attack does the same amount of damage as the magic, but has a less wind-up time. Because you can see like the frames wear out before the fight's over, or before the cast is over. So it turns out that the turtle is actually a good guy, and with the help of the ever-useful Makona, he translates what the giant turtle is saying. And for some reason, Fu levels up from the the event. Like usually like level ups are tied to the girls realizing something, but that one doesn't really, like in the dialogue, she's not really realizing anything or growing in any way, just like, oh, that makes sense. And so the turtle is gonna take us up to where we need to go, which is a city in the sky. I believe it's called Aruria or something like that. It has a strange name. And for whatever reason, the turtle sounds like an airplane. And we get some hot mid-90s CGI. But apparently, like in the backstory of the turtles, it used to act as a ferry between the Sky Village and Sephiroth on Earth. But since he went into a slumber and was unable to shake off the debris, basically all contact had been severed. But now we're here. We want to get to the next dungeon, but we can't. There's a gate blocking our path. And the only person who has the key is the mayor. But he's not too keen to just let anybody go. He says that the Heaven's Labyrinth needs to be protected from outsiders. But apparently not even people who live there can go. And being the nice guy he is, he just tosses us out into the street. So we're just gonna go stay at a plot inn and hope that maybe the next time we talk to him, he cools off and will be kinder to us. Oh, and we get the wall kid. There we go. So yeah, sometimes this kid likes to get stuck in the stairs. Luckily, it's usually not for very long. Gate breaking skill. So we stay a night at the end. Currency is pretty pointless. If you see on the upper right, there's a gem counter, and that's the currency in the game. You can use it to buy potions. And in one area, you can use it to buy health and mana upgrades. But money is pretty scarce in the game. Yeah, I see that with the timer. I'll fix it. So now the key has been stolen. Aha. Take that. The key has been stolen and we're being blamed for it despite asking for the key. Yeah, I didn't account for the hours part. So now we're being thrown in jail. I think my first playthrough of Magic Knight Rayearth was like 11 hours. Actually, was it 11 hours? I know it was fairly lengthy. But there's like a sort of 100% in this game. There's like 64 rainbow amulets, I believe. Or maybe 56. I know there's a lot. But now we're doing a genre change. We're going into a Metal Gear Solid kind of segment where we need to sneak our way to the scene of the crime. So the guards have very narrow eyesight and apparently they're deaf. So we just have to sneak our way around and hope we don't get caught, because getting caught is a big waste of time. So normally when you walk into a wall, you lose your running speed, but whatever reason, going into corners doesn't do that. And luckily, all the cycles start when you enter the room. So that's actually like both good and bad, because we have to wait on this guy. And this is like the one tough part of getting a fast cycle. So we just have to, you know, follow close behind him and hope we don't bump into him. Okay, awesome. No! I knew I was a little too slow. So I got caught there. If you're fast enough, you can skip that guy's cycle as well. But the downside of getting caught is you're forced to sit through this cutscene every single time. Which I know we all love just looking at Fu's amazing lockpicking skills. And that's basically half the reason I'm Fu right now is because where the characters sit is where they are when you exit the cutscene. So Fu, of course, is the closest to the exit. And then also, there's a cutscene later where only Fu can interact with it. Because basically each character has their own dialogue for interacting with objects. And Fu's the only one that has deduction skills, I guess. So there is like a faster method for this room, but it's basically task only because it requires getting run speed right away. And also doing some very precise movement in between a guard, which is like kind of crazy. But there's basically no faster way to this room because when this room spawns, or when the guards spawn in this room, this guard's already heading this direction, and he has like super long eyesight. Okay, that should be better. There we go. So yeah, if you do it right, it looks just like that. So now we check the chimney, and apparently the crook came in through the chimney. And so we decide to climb up the chimney to see where the trail leads. And lo and behold, we find Ferrio's flute at the scene of the crime. So even though we're covered in soot, we just instantly clean up. I'm not sure how we get down though. And here we find Ferio covered in soot with a mysterious woman who looks exactly like Alcyone with a hood. But he's acting funny. And Fu's pretty hurt by it. So Rafarga is conveniently here, and he's wearing some interesting armor and some face paint. And he gives us the idea of staking out the gate. He's like, whoever stole the keys, their intends to use it. So we just, you know, stake out the gate and wait and see who shows up. But we're gonna be waiting a while. And lo and behold, who shows up? It's Ferio. With a mysterious woman who looks just like Alcyone. Alright, so now we're going to do something of a wrong warp here. Basically, if we jump into this screen that we're going to be entering, if we jump into it in a certain way, it'll load in a part of the area that's near the end of the dungeon, so it allows us just to skip the entirety of the dungeon. The only catch is that we need to be on running speed for it, like this. Let's see. And there we go, first try. You can tell by just having the that heart container there. And it just lets us go straight to the end of the dungeon and skip having to do the entirety of it. Normally there's a lot of moving platform cycles. Casually, this dungeon is very, very interesting. There's a lot to explore. It's very labyrinthian. And there's also a spell for food to learn, which is only useful in this dungeon, like, at all. Like, there's like a couple places where it's useful casually for getting extra rainbow amulets. But basically what it does is just lets you float over any hazards or pits, like here. But the catch is that you can't attack or build up running speed while it's active. And it also costs 6 mana to use. So now we find Fario, and now he's coming to attack us, because it turns out he's under mind control.
She's right. You are a warrior without honor.
Fair enough. But I still demand your Escudo weapons in exchange for this filthy waif.
You win.
Huh, that's more like it.
And lo and behold, it's Alcyone. It's like you couldn't tell just by her voice.
I don't like your manner, witch.
Who are you?
There's honor only in a fair fight.
That's it! You're under mind control from Sagat!
Refarga, you saved
And I
us!
find out that Rafarga's only here because he's under mind control.
Pick up your weapons. Time to die.
So poor Rafarga is having to fight us against his own will, but we're gonna try to snap him out of it with words of encouragement.
Hikaru! What's wrong with
Speaking
my
of
head?
words of encouragement, we might have some for our runners in our next race. If you have a moment, I have a donation for you.
Sure.
So, Ronnie Von donated $15, saying, seeing how I'm going to be
Bye-bye,
hosting the Final
Rafarga.
Fantasy I Rando race, I may or may not regret doing this, but putting it towards Warmech, which does in fact complete our Warmech incentive for our next run. So thank you very much, Vonnie. And we still have other donations coming up for Earthlock, which is the race after that. So feel free to donate to that one or any of the others.
Alrighty, so this fight's actually pretty interesting. For whatever reason, if we stand over here around this section, the AI does not function for this boss, and it'll just continuously spinning around in circles. And it'll keep doing that until we leave this part, so we just take advantage of that and turn this luck-dependent boss into something very consistent. Because normally this boss just like flies all over the place and you can only tap him at certain points and does a lot of moves to knock you off the screen as well. But we just like completely trivialize this fight. Oh, trust me, casually this is very much a jerk bird. But Alcyone once again thwarted. Let's see, I think like in the course of the game, like you thwart her like 4 times before you actually defeat her. So now we have our Fario back, and also we get another conversation with Clef to activate Wyndham, our second ancient machine. Because you notice, like, for the longest time, the ancient machines weren't talked about. Like, we had the one at the beginning of the game, and then nothing until now. because we've just been kind of wandering aimlessly. But now the game is going to really speed up to a conclusion. Like, everything's just kind of, like, rushing to the end at this point. So now that we got Wyndham, for some reason there's a magic elevator that appears. And now we get another amazing cutscene with Zagat.
Curse the fortitude of Rafarga. His will was much stronger than we had anticipated. How do you wish to address this situation, dear Lord?
Equip your armor and go, Inova. I pray you do not fail.
I shall do exactly as you desire, my liege.
Alright, so now Inova is starting to mobilize again, which is never good. So fortunately, this elevator takes us to where we need to go next. Game like that's just like a really convenient elevator like that. Alright, so now we're going to some cabin in the woods. Basically, there's this like old dude who lives in the woods. He basically lives by himself. I think his wife passed away or something like that. There's just like a grave for her. And so he just lives by himself in the middle of the woods. And conveniently, Rafarga has survived the fall. But, as we find out, he has amnesia from the Great Fall. But he's truly a powerful man if he can survive a fall from all the way up in the sky city. He doesn't remember anything about who he is. So we talk to the old guy. He talks of a medicine that can restore his memory. Story-wise, in Lyrie, we helped get the last leaf from the Tree of Life, which is dying, to synthesize a medicine to heal a bunch of sick people in the village or in the city. And luckily, the game is set up in a way that the plot triggers the correct flag for us to talk to the head nurse of the hospital. Her name is Athena. And she gives us the required medicine to cure Rafarga's amnesia. Because for whatever reason, the healing properties of this Tree of Life medicine can even cure amnesia, which is, just amazing. So, like, story-wise, we get the herb, we give it to a guy named Abner, who gets himself stuck in the Tree of Life, and we have to go rescue him. Oops. And so we give it to him to impress Athena, because he is, like, has a crush on her. But she, like, knew otherwise that he didn't do it, but she just, like, went along with it anyways, because she thought he was, like, a sweet guy. But now we have the medicine. We go back to Rafarga, and we're gonna cure his amnesia. Because we want our Rafarga back. Even though we don't really know him. But his head he has a splitting headache now. And as we find out, it's caused by the mind control that Zagat has imposed on him, because it's still tormenting him, and he's trying his hardest to fight it. Because Zagat is just such a powerful guy that even, like, no one can truly resist his mind control. And now Inova's here to push him into giving in. And Alcyon makes her appearance too. And Alcyon is not as strong as she thinks she is. Like, she thinks she's like hot stuff, but she's not actually that strong. So Rafarga only has 2 attacks. He has like a slashing attack, and he has like a magic spell. Ideally, want him to do the slashing attack, because when he does the magic spell, we have to wait for him to cast it. He's invincible until he finishes casting. And sometimes he'll just favor magic for whatever reason. Generally, in the second phase, he does favor it. But this is the only attacks he has. He doesn't even like get any more aggressive or anything on the second phase. It's basically the second phase is just when we do enough damage to him, his armor turns red. Dang, he is really favoring magic. So now he's entering the second phase where it's just more of the same except red. Like, this is probably the worst possible lucky you can get on this fight. It's kind of funny. There we go, now he's doing his slash. Alright, and that fight's over. Like, even casually, it's not too difficult to fight, because he, like I said, he only has 2 moves, and they're pretty easy to dodge. Like, when you're casting a spell, his magic still, like, spirals out.
I have grown tired of this charade. Say goodbye.
But it doesn't, like, show the animation for it.
You murdered him in cold blood! You're pathetic. What is she doing?
It seems as if your power has unexpectedly increased.
So somehow a magical ball of energy caused a cut in Nova. But as you saw, like, her armor changed.
Rafarga, you have to hold on.
Basically, I mean, she leveled up.
Lie still. Please don't die.
You must save dear Princess Emerald. It's your destiny.
Our poor Farga.
Master Zaygod. My life runs from me, and yet you entertain another. Farewell, my love.
And so something that, like, what I guess I didn't mention is that Alcyon is really into Zaygod, so she's like doing everything she can to impress and win his affection. But it turns out that Zaygod is actually in love with the princess, whom he is holding hostage. And now, that's why y'all hear those restaurant guys. And now our third machine is making itself aware, or making us aware of its location. So now we're done here. We have buried Rafarga, given them a proper burial, I guess. And now we go back to the first town we were in, Polizu Village, which is now covered in soot from the volcanic eruption. And basically houses are destroyed, people are hurt, and everything's in disarray. But basically, because the princess has been captured, her magic no longer protects Sephiroth, and the whole world is going into chaos. It's basically, Princess Emerald's magic was so powerful that she could protect the entire world. But that was basically the only thing she could do. Because magic in this world is powered by thought, and she has the most powerful thought of anyone. So now we're entering the final dungeon of the game. And it's definitely a challenging dungeon. And we also learn the most powerful spell in the game, which is just simply called Flash, which is named after Hikaru's dog. And it kills any boss in 3 hits, but the catch is it costs 10 mana to use, and we're only going to have 9 mana for the rest of the game. But thanks to the magic glitch, it's pretty inconsequential. Ooh, I should have had running speed there. So we're just going to do a little bit of a momentum thing to just skip some platforms. Ooh. So normally you're expected to go those platforms, but when you're running you get a farther jump rate. And this room used to be difficult because they expect you to go all the way around and do some challenging platforming. But there's a tiny little gap in this rock that we can just kind of squeeze through. Because those rocks are supposed to kind of block your path. Let's see, that's fine. Okay, awesome, made that. So this room is just basically just a bunch of teleporters. Ah. Alright, made that. Awesome. Awesome. Made the quick cycle on that room. It's very, very tight to get that. So I'm going to switch to Fu here. Just because I'm going to need her for the magic swap later. So basically, Hikaru's our damage dealer from here on out. Just because, like I said, she can kill any boss in 3 hits now. Heal up. And now we're going to run into Alcyone for one final encounter. This time, she's going all out on us. She's not holding back anymore. And if you recall, she was bleeding to death when we last saw her. And she's basically given up on life. The one she loved, the one she gave everything to get their affection. She doesn't want us helping her. She just wants to try and kill us. Whoops. That was my fault. I forgot to change spells. There we go. It's fine. So Alcyone likes to go off screen, and when she's off screen, you can't hit her. So ideally, you just want to keep her in screen. Okay, good. And for some reason when she dies, she just kind of fades into nothing. And then she's like the only one like that, I think. But we're lamenting our entire ordeal here. Everything we've done, people are dying. we make friends. Just everything is going sideways. Everything we do, everything we come across, just bad things are happening. But we know it's for the long-term survival of Sephiroth. But now we finally have all 3 magic ancient machines. And now we have possessed the power to actually revive them and use them. But we're not quite there yet. We need to go deal with Innova, because he's basically the last gatekeeper to Zagot. And as we revealed in this cutscene of Innova's true nature.
Master Zagot, I implore you, return me to my original form. The power of the Magic Knights can no longer be ignored. It is my duty to destroy them before they become powerful enough to threaten you. But to accomplish that, I must abandon this frail shell.
Innova, in times past, you have served as guardian and gatekeeper of Emerald's castle.
Yes, but I have accomplished nothing apart from your nourishing grace.
If you choose to return to your beastly form as gatekeeper, you shall never be able to return to this present form again. Your wisdom and beauty will perish.
A fitting price, my liege. Time spent in your service is the reward of 1,000 lifetimes, sire. Don't you see? Only by destroying those that seek to thwart your glorious plan can I fulfill my destiny, Lord. I beg for your blessing, sire.
Innova.
So yeah, Innova's like really into Zagot too. I mean, he's just such a handsome guy. How could you say no to that face? So we can't fast travel out of the Lair of Truth because it's like even the entranceway is considered part of the dungeon, and you can't fast travel in dungeons. So we have to go back to Polizu Village, and then we can go to Precia's Manor for the first time in the run. Normally, like, you go through some cutscene, about 20 minutes of cutscenes in the beginning of the game, and then you land in front of Precia's place, where she guides you to getting your weapons. Oops. So, the unique thing about that fight with Alcyone is the only time where you don't get healed after finishing it. So we just gotta heal up there. It's, like, not important, but it helps. So now we finally talk to Precia, and if you notice, Makona's sitting in there in the chair. Normally, in casual playthrough, that chair will be turned around empty, but since we never caused that cutscene to happen, it still shows Makona hiding there. So now we're going to the Cape of Legend, which was our first entry point in Sephiroth. And at the Cape of Legend, we're going to find Clef as a stone statue. Because in the beginning of the game, we meet him, he introduces himself to us, and Alcyone turns him to stone with the power of Zagot. So even though we killed Alcyone, even though we killed Alcyone, Clef is still stone because Alcyone herself didn't turn Clef to stone. It was her channeling the power of Zagot. So Zagot needs to be defeated in order to cures petrification. But somehow he's able to survive as a stone statue.
Oh my god! What is that thing?
Behold your executioner!
And now we see Inova's true form as the beastly canine that he is. But luckily, Ferrio's here in the nick of time to help us out. Basically, he severs off Inova's horn, which I guess is like the source of his power. There we go. Come on. Ooh, that's not gonna count. So Inova's like kind of weird. He likes moving around a lot. There we go. I haven't seen him use that in a long time. There we go. Also, he has random duration and vulnerability frames. Sometimes they don't last very long, and sometimes they last a very long time. I need to be careful here, because if Karu dies, the fight gets a lot longer. Nice. Okay. Okay, so that was a little bit scary. I didn't expect it. I was like, it's rare that he opens up with a magic attack like that. Usually he just either dashes at you or does his lightning bolts to attack. So now Nova is defeated. We can finally move on to our true enemies they got. And with the power of the ancient machines, we're gonna storm Zaygot's castle, because basically his castle's like shrouded with it's like shrouded in invisibility, and there's also like a barrier protecting it. But when all three ancient machines are summoned at the same time, it disrupts Zaygot's magic and causes Zaygot's palace to be temporarily visible. We're going to use that time to destroy the barriers surrounding his castle and take him on. And we get some lovely triangles. And we get to see the state of what Sephiroth is really like right now, because Zaygot's magic's kind of masking what's actually going on in the world. Because without the princess, like, the whole place has been driven into chaos. And if you've also noticed, Fu no longer has her glasses. For whatever reason, as she like gets stronger, her eyes get better too, which is quite convenient. So at this point in the game, she no longer wears her glasses, although I guess there she does, but in the next few cutscenes she won't be. Oh, I'm right with you on that one, Margaret. And through the power of our Trinity, somehow we break the barrier with 2 swords and a bow. So now we can finally storm. We can finally be in the castle and take down Zagot once and for all. But you know, being the big bad guy, he's not going to go down easily. And Zagot's kind of interesting in that when he'll have like a magic barrier around him when you can't attack him, so it's like pretty obvious at least. And now he's like questioning us, why does the princess have to pray for peace to keep Sephiroth safe? And it's like, we're not having any of it. We're just gonna go in and take you down. So he has like 3 magic... Ooh, that was a frame too soon. So I just try to get him in between invulnerability frames. There we go. And sometimes they can just jump the gun a little. Ah. There we go. Easy peasy. And of course, he's not done yet. He's can't build now. Now he's going to summon his giant robot. I believe his name is Eternal Spiral, that's it. And the only way I found about this name is because if you lose to him, he'll have some extra dialogue. And the extra dialogue, he says the name of his giant robot. And this is like my favorite track in the game. It's so good. And now we're going to change genres here from an action RPG to a shmup. And it's actually an interesting fight. Basically, Fu is going to be our main damage dealer. She's like been the weakest for the entirety of the game, but each of her arrows does damage when it hits. Oh no, he's spawning bees. Not the bees. So that's like his favorite attack to do for whatever reason. So with Fu, we can actually kill this boss in as little as 5 hits, assuming all the arrows land. Let's see, so stay out of his way. And a lot of times he actually does favor the bees for whatever reason. Just gonna do that. And we just have to wait in between attacks in order to attack him. Yep, he's gonna do 2, 3, 4, holy moly, 5, 6. Wow, that's a first for me. In all my years of playing this game, I've never seen him do 6. That's insane. It's like normally, like, if you don't do like this method with Fu, it can take like a minimum of like 20 hits with Hikaru to take down this boss. A run of first, indeed. Like I used to only think he could only do 2 in a row, and then I saw him do 3, and I saw him do 3 once, and now he did 6. So now Clef is finally free of his petrification, but he won't tell us anything. He just says, "Go see the princess." And we finally have freed the princess, but it turns out she's pretty pissed off that we killed Zagot.
Because Princess Emerald loves Zagot deeply, she placed Sephiroth at risk of complete annihilation. Knowing she had betrayed a sacred trust, Emerald felt ashamed and sought to punish herself. She therefore summoned you, the Magic Knights, from your world, because only ones called from outside her domain could defeat Princess Emerald, the cornerstone of Sephiroth.
And now she's gonna kill us for killing her one true love. So basically, she is so stricken by grief that she can't control herself anymore.
Your fate has been sealed.
So at this point, it's either kill her or she's gonna destroy the entire world of Sephiroth with her magic. Just out of pure grief. But the princess is so powerful that we, as the 3 separate machines, we can't do anything. We're entirely helpless against her awesome power. But we have a little fuzzy creature named Makona who will save the day.
Mokona, get out of here! It's too dangerous!
Clef, how will we ever defeat Emerald's machine? It's too powerful.
Magic Knights, don't worry. Now is the time to unleash the power you have nurtured since your arrival in Sephiroth. Demonstrate the power of your fierce will and conviction. If you believe in yourselves, the strength of your machines can overcome any and all obstacles in your path. Call forth your power, Magic Knights!
The power of our will. The power to save Sephiroth.
We will have the strength to finish our mission.
Yes, the power of Voltron will save us. Or Power Rangers. I am playing on an actual Sega Saturn. No emulator here. I love this song too. So now we have the power to overcome Princess Emerald, and she's a tough fight, but predictable. She'll basically follow where you go, and her attack pattern is always the same. She always does the same set of attacks in the same order. And all we want to do is attack her head. Like, for each of her body parts can be attacked, just to reduce the kind of attack she has. But all we want to do is attack the head. And I can take a little bit of damage. Okay, that's fine. Alright, just take a little safe there. That might be a little soon. I'm mainly using just the magic to negate damage against myself, but I just cast a little soon. Oh no, that was fine. And it's just a bunch of hits to the head. And that's time. Control, split.
Excellent work, fair Magic Knights.
Oh, I see what happened.
But Clef, have we really done the right thing? I mean...
Don't
There we go.
despair, for you see, the outcome is exactly as Emerald had planned.
I forgot to close my splits.
Your destiny is fulfilled.
Princess Emerald!
Hikaru, Umi.
So even though she's dead,
You
she
have
lives on as a
fulfilled all that
ghost.
was asked of you. Remember this. No matter where you go, the strength of your mind and spirit is the most powerful magic of all.
But Emerald!
I'm told there is no season 2. But now the girls are back in Tokyo Tower like nothing happened for them. But they get to keep the Escudo that they got at the very beginning of their journey. But that is Magic Knight Rayearth for the Sega Saturn. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy I could be a part of this event. And I look forward to seeing y'all at RPG Limit Break.
Yes, GG Shentok with your run. And thank you all for joining us here on RPGs We Love for the RPG Valkyries. I can speak. And please stay tuned. We have some amazing races coming up. Final Fantasy 1 rando right after this. So, should be fun. And we have plenty more runs for the rest of the week. So, feel free to stay tuned. Thank you very much, everybody.